Welcome to another episode of Great Talkability with your boy Darius the Great. We are here for episode 2, and we have quite the week of pop culture, of movies and TV, and all that good stuff to talk about, because it has been very eventful when it comes to the news. So welcome back for another installment here. Of course, you can find the full episode right here on the YouTube, but you can also go to Spotify and listen to it as well, right? So let's not waste any time, man. Let's get into this thing, because like I said, we have a whole lot to talk about. And looking at our agenda here, I feel like the biggest thing to talk about is the Wonder Woman news, right? So if you don't know, Gal Gadot, in an interview with Comic Book Movie here, she revealed that she's working on a Wonder Woman 3 with James Gunn and Peter Safran for the new DCU, right? When that news came out, it just, the DC fandom was just like, what? This just doesn't make any, what? I thought we were going through a reboot here, right? But let's read this article here, of course, on Comic Book Movie. The DC Universe on film is headed in a new direction under James Gunn and Peter Safran, but it sounds like Gal Gadot is still going to be involved with Wonder Woman's future. Gadot debuted as Diana Prince in 2016's Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. She then headlined 2017's Wonder Woman. Let me get that out of the way. And its 2020 sequel, Wonder Woman 1984, opposite Chris Pine as Steve Trevor, both helmed by director Patty Jenkins, while also appearing in Justice League in the fully Zack Snyder-helmed director's cut. As Gunn and Safran took over as co-heads of the rechristened DC Studios for Warner Bros., plans for Patty Jenkins to return for Wonder Woman 3 were scrapped. That left Gadot's future as Wonder Woman unclear. Things became murkier when she appeared in a cameo role in Shazam! Fury of the Gods. You remember that movie? That thing was a bomb. But had a similar cameo cut from The Flash, starring Ezra Miller, where she would have appeared alongside Ben Affleck as Batman and Henry Cavill as Superman, further confusing fans. Now, she did, appear in the Flash movie anyway, but she was going to show up at the end to kind of set up that, she is sticking around with Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck, potentially. But that didn't go through. Also, there was one about Michael Keaton. But it's a mess over there at DC. Speaking of comic book movies, speaking of comicbook.com's Chris Killian for her new Netflix movie Heart of Stone before the SAG-AFTRA strike, Gadot said that as she understands it, she'll be developing Wonder Woman 3 together with Gunn and Safran. Quote, "I love portraying Wonder Woman," Gadot says. "It's so close to and dear to my heart. From what I heard from James and from Peter is that we're going to develop a Wonder Woman 3 together." So yes, they are working on a Wonder Woman 3 in the new DCU. Now, it brings so many questions here, because my first thought was maybe what this is an Elseworld movie where they're just like, look, Gal, we like you, so we're going to give you a third movie to wrap up your tenure as Wonder Woman and then, see you on your way. But then I saw something from one of the insider people, like the leakers, people who have insider information about stuff going on behind the scenes. Every now and then we get news from them on oh, this is what this character is going to be in this movie. This is what's going to happen to this character. This is what's going on with the movie and such and such. One of them is fairly reliable. I believe by the name of, on Twitter, it's Can We Get Some Toast or something like that. And they basically went on Twitter and said that this is going to be in the DCU and that Gal is playing Wonder Woman again. This is not just her being, on the creative team behind a new Wonder Woman movie. No, she is reprising her role as Wonder Woman in the DCU in this movie. And that this movie originally, of course, was with Patty Jenkins, right? But James Gunn didn't like her version of the script, didn't think that it fit with where he wanted to take Wonder Woman in the DCU, so Patty left. But obviously, Gal has stuck around, and now they're working on a new Wonder Woman film that will fit into the DCU. It's not going to be a Wonder Woman 3, per se, according to the leaker, right? They said that basically events from the first two movies are going to be similar and different. Some stuff's going to stick, some stuff is not going to stick. but it's going to be a new Wonder Woman movie in the DCU with Gal. And it just opens up a whole can of worms. Because, like, look, there's been some petty outrage when it comes to some of James Gunn's decisions with the DCU. There's been some, especially from the Snyder fans. Like, they just get outraged over anything. The Snyder cultists, as I like to call them. But this is one decision that I could see why they'd be upset, why they'd be raging out. Because, look, Gal Gadot is 38 years old, right? If I'm not mistaken, let me look up, let me get my facts straight. If I am not mistaken, Gal Gadot is 38. Yeah, she's 38 years old. Now, Henry Cavill, I want to say, is 40, right? I believe he's only like 40 years old, only 2 years apart. Let me again just make sure here. Got my facts straight. Henry Cavill, yep, he's 40. Now, obviously, this isn't an age thing when it comes to why Henry Cavill was recast, right? It can't be. Like, the Snyder fans, in this instance, I can see why they'd be so upset, because you're keeping Gal, but you're not keeping Henry, even though they're not that far apart in age at all. So it seems like, James, you specifically did not want Henry back. Like, it seems like a personal thing. You didn't want Henry back. And it's kind of hard to argue it, because that's what it looks like. Now, here's the only thing. I feel like it is perfectly within James Gunn's right as the creative head of DC now to look at Henry Cavill as Superman and go, you know, Henry, I like you as an actor. I do. But as Superman, I'm not really feeling it. I want to go in a different direction. I want to recast. He is perfectly in his right to do that. But at least be upfront about it. At least somewhat, right? Somewhat upfront about that. Like, James, look, I'm going to give you can even use this statement. I'll give it to you for free. It's what you could have said. It's what you could still say. I really like Henry Cavill as an actor. I do. But when I look at Superman and how I envision him in the DCU, we haven't had a chance to study a Superman that is young and in his prime in the modern era. We haven't seen that since Christopher Reeve in the movies. Man of Steel left us with the promise of that at the very end, where, you know, he goes to the Daily Planet and he's like, hi, I'm Clark. And it kind of teases that, all right, next movie, we're going to get young Superman adventures, you know, in his prime in Metropolis, handling things as a hero. But we didn't get that in the next movie. What happened in the next movie was Batman versus Superman, but also the death of Superman. So we didn't get time to spend with a younger Superman like we should have had. They didn't do that with Henry. Now, I want to do that. I want to be able to have a young Superman in his prime in the movies. And if I were to cast Henry, I can't do that. That's all he had to say. That's literally all he had to say. And I think people will understand, right? Because a lot of people, like a lot of fans of Cavill, are just like, it's not like he's that old. You could just keep him, like, you could have Henry play Superman for like another 20 years, maybe. Especially in his, you know, physical condition. Like, he could probably go for Superman another 20 years. But if James came out and said that, I want to specifically give audiences a chance to see a younger Superman in the films that we haven't had since Christopher Reeve, people will understand. They would understand. Like, just be a little more clear about why you really want to see a younger Superman and not keep Henry. That's all. Just be more upfront about that. Right? But this, you know, keeping Gal is just going to further confuse people, because Cavill's gone. Ben's gone. Even though for Ben, that's more of his own personal matter of why he doesn't want to be Batman full time, obviously. But Cavill and Ben are gone, but Gal's sticking around. It just seems like a weird thing. Now, I do understand. I completely understand why you would choose Gal out of like any other Justice League castings to keep, because let's be honest, She's the best one in terms of characterization. Like, I'll give Snyder this. He cast a pretty good Justice League for the most part. For the most part. Castings, for the most part, were on the spot. But the characterizations of them, that's a different story altogether. Because Superman was dark and brooding and, depressed and all that good stuff. And he was just like, he was always questioning, oh, do I really want to save people? Should I even bother? Like, he was just having this existential crisis stuff. And it was just like, all right, man, like, we don't need Superman to have all these shades of gray. Like, can he be light for once, And then, of course, he had Batman murking fools, but not murking Joker, right? Like Joker gets to live even after beating Robin to death with a crowbar. Or I guess, Harley Quinn did that. But, like, either way, you'll murk all these other low-level criminals, but Joker's still alive and hanging around. That doesn't make any sense at all. And then, like, they just really messed up Batman's character in terms of, like, the potential of what Ben Affleck could have been. You look at Ezra Miller's Flash, like, the controversy aside in terms of the criminal dealings, Ezra's Flash, Ezra's Barry Allen is not Barry Allen. It's more like a Impulse, Wally West, Ezra Miller infusion, right? It's not Barry. Ray Fisher as Cyborg, actually, I thought Ray Fisher as Cyborg was actually pretty good, but we know what happened there. Ray basically canceled himself because, like, some of you might not remember, but he was supposed to be in the Flash. He was supposed to have a featured role in the Flash, but he planted his flagpole on the ground and said, I will not be a part of any Warner Bros. DC project that has Walter Hamada involved. He made that decision. And at the time, Walter Hamada was the head. He did it to himself. And it's funny because if he would have just held out for like a year, Walter is gone. James Gunn and Peter Safran, they're in now. Like, he could have just waited a year and he probably would still be Cyborg right now. Like, I think James likely would have kept him. But, he, like I said, canceled himself. And then Jason Momoa, yeah, he's good as Aquaman, but his Aquaman is really just Jason Momoa. Which is why Jason Momoa wants to be Lobo. Like, he should just be Lobo, because, like, Jason Momoa, the man, the actor, he's Lobo in real life. So, like, I feel like Gal, characterization-wise, was the best of the Justice League. So I can see why Gunn would look at it and be like, yeah, I'll keep you, because you were, like, the best one. Yeah, sure, I'll keep you. But the other side of this is the nature of the canon of the DCU and what, like, this mean. Like, what does this mean? Like, where's the DCU going in terms of a reboot? Excuse me. Like, where are we going here? How much of a reboot is this actually? We still don't know. Like, The Flash, we all thought was going to answer the question of, all right, here is the end of the DCU, hard end of the DCU, and here is the hard beginning, the hard start of the DCU. We didn't get any of that. The Flash movie did a Flashpoint storyline, but yet didn't reset properly the timelines. That's just a failure on top of the, box office failure. But, like, we're still left with so many questions. And I could understand maybe because, Aquaman 2 is still slated to come out this year in December. Who knows if it gets delayed with the strikes going on. More on that later. But I can understand maybe not wanting the hard reset right now because you want Aquaman 2 to make some money. Because if people find out that, all right, boom, hard reset right now, why are they going to go see Aquaman 2? I mean, people right now, regardless, are like that, where it's like, it doesn't matter. But I could see maybe not wanting to put that hard stop because you want Aquaman 2 to make some money because the first one made $1 billion. But let's be honest, it's not going to happen this time. DC movies right now, they do not have good credit. People do not care about DC movies right now. They don't trust them. The last 3 movies have been box office bombs. Or like in the case of Black Adam, like underperforming. I wouldn't say that it bombed. It just like, it nearly broke even. So like, it I don't know. You could say that's a bomb. I don't know. But like Black Adam, Shazam 2, Flash, and looks like Blue Beetle's going to be the same. And then Aquaman 2, likely going to be the same. I don't think it's getting anywhere near $1 billion. So like on one hand, I could get you want to give that a chance to make some money, but on the other hand, just accept and face reality here. But we need a clear definition of what the new DCU canon is. Gal Gadot coming back just further confuses things. Like, here is like the biggest confusing factor is what James Gunn said like last week, where a fan asked him about Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner in Superman Legacy. They're like, okay, well, Nathan Fillion was TDK in the Suicide Squad. And James Gunn said something to the effect of, Superman Legacy is the first canon project in the DCU. But so the Suicide Squad is not canon, okay? Where does that leave Peacemaker? Because we know that James Gunn is going to work on Peacemaker Season 2 after he's done with Superman Legacy. So is Peacemaker not canon anymore? Is that Season 2 just going to be an Elseworlds thing? Like, but then that gets confusing because Gunn announced the Amanda Waller show as a part of the DCU. And that spins off directly from Peacemaker, which in itself is a spinoff from the Suicide Squad. Like, Peacemaker, literally, the beginning of the first episode is them recapping what happened in the Suicide Squad and how Peacemaker got put in the hospital by Bloodsport. In the show itself, Peacemaker breaks down at one point, talking about what he did in that movie, killing Rick Flag. In that show, like, at the end of the show, Amanda Waller gets exposed for what she did with the whole Starro project, and that is supposed to feed into the Waller show. But how is the Suicide Squad not canon? Like, how does that... Do you see what's going on here? It's SpongeBob in that episode where he was like twisting his arms trying to explain... I forgot what he was trying to explain. But like, y'all know the image. Like, that's how my mind is right now. It's trying to make sense of this. That's the biggest thing. There is no sense to be made of the DCU canon right now. And I need James Gunn to come out and just give a definitive answer. Like, he needs to make another video like he did when he announced the DCU slate, that first half of it. He needs to go, all right, I'm going to explain to you the DCU timeline. What's staying, what's going. He needs to do that because right now, there's just so much confusion. There's too much confusion. Now, before we move on to some Marvel news, let's talk about these strikes, right? The WGA and the SAG-AFTRA strike. First, the WGA strike and the updates in terms of the fact that they are going to meet with the AMPTP today, in fact, at the time of recording. I believe they said it'll be like this morning sometime. So going by, West Coast time, because I'm on the East, probably be in a few hours, I would have to guess, somewhere within that time frame. So yeah, they're going to go back to the negotiating table, Star Wars style, to quote Grievous, the negotiator. That's my best Grievous voice. But beforehand, yesterday, they put out a statement, the negotiating committee put out a statement in an email sent to its members. And I'm going to read it because it's very interesting. So it says here, so far the companies have wasted months on their same failed strategy. They have attempted time and time again through anonymous quotes in the media to use scare tactics, rumors, and lies to weaken our resolve. Article after article has perpetuated a myth that the strike has no impact because streaming services have libraries and some product in the pipeline. Pundits quoting studio executives claim that the strike is good for the companies financially and that they will be happy to have it extended to 2024 so they can write off their losses. This is a calculated disinformation about the real impact of the ongoing strikes. We have shut down production. Union writers and actors are so essential in this industry that the companies cannot even attempt to do the work without us. It is not a viable business strategy for these companies to shut down their business for 3 months and counting, no matter how much they try and pretend it is. No lies were detected there, man. No lies were detected because I do remember, about a month ago now, or at the start of it's about a month ago now, where one of the studio executives anonymously in an article said that, hey, look, we'll let this go for as long as possible until people start losing their homes. Then we'll bring them back to the negotiating table. That's what they said. And that, it was a scare tactic, but it did the opposite. It was the opposite intended effect. It strengthened their resolve. Like, it's kind of wild, and I love that it did that. And then yesterday, I saw something about David Zaslav, the CEO of Warner Bros. Discovery, where in his statement, it was like during an earnings call or something, he did talk about the importance of, creativity and the writers and the actors and how much their industry depends on them and all that good stuff. But he also did say that the strike somehow it allowed them to save money. So, like, kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth there. But yeah, I don't know how this meeting is going to go, because, like, you would hope it ends the strike. The writers get what they ask for, what they deserve, right? And everything's fine and dandy. But I don't know, because as we've seen, the studios can just BS if they really want to. On the actors side of things, I want to talk about Stephen Amell, because that is an interesting topic right now. He landed himself in some hot water when talking about the SAG strike. When he was talking at like Galaxy Con or something like that. I have the quotes right here, where this is what he said in response to the strike. He said, quote, "I support my union, I do, and I stand with them, but I do not support striking. I don't. I think it is a reductive negotiating tactic, and I find the entire thing incredibly frustrating. And I think the thinking as it pertains to shows like the show that I'm on that premiered last night, I think it's myopic." He was talking about Heels that premiered like last Sunday, this past Sunday, right? And that spurred a lot of heat on him, because a lot of people, including myself, are looking at him like, dude, how can you support your union but you're not in support of the strike? Like, you do realize the purpose of a union, right? You do realize the purpose of the strike, right? It is to get better pay, better security against AI. Like, it's really weird to sit there and say, yeah, I support my union, I stand with them, but striking, it's a reductive negotiating tactic. And it left me to wonder, okay, what other option did they have? What negotiating tactic would you do, Stephen, that would get results? Because I don't think there's another option, really. Like, there's nothing else the actors could do to force the studio's hands. Nothing. Like, they can't just go, hey, can you please pay us better? Can you please give us some better residuals on streaming? Can you pretty please do that? It's not going to happen. It's not going to work. So, like, it really felt like a selfish thing. And, like, I get it. It can be frustrating not being able to do more work right now. But that is the point of a union, man. You're all supposed to stand together when times like this come around. And some of his Arrowverse co-stars commented, I believe, like the actor who played Richard Dragon on Arrow, he was like, oh man, this effing guy. I think even was it the actor who played Reverse Flash? I don't know, I don't want to get that wrong, but like, I know it was like some high profile actor on there. I wanted to make sure I got his name right. Matt Lester. Yeah. Okay. He did play like one of the faces of Reverse Flash. I didn't really watch the Arrowverse like that. But yeah, he was like, please tell us what other negotiating tactic could we have done, sir? So yeah, Stephen Amell caught a lot of heat for that. I think rightly so. But he did later come out and sort of clarify his comments on the whole strike situation. And I'm going to read what he said to attempt to clarify, what he meant here. And he did this on Instagram. So let me see. Right. Here we go. Understandably, there's been a lot of reaction to the comments I made this weekend about our strike. To ensure there is no misunderstanding about my thoughts and intentions, I'm providing what I actually said in clarity/context to ensure my feelings aren't unintentionally misinterpreted. We all know sound bites can be taken out of context, and I have too much respect for my fellow union members to not clarify the record. I understand fundamentally why we're here. My off-the-cuff use of the word support is clearly contradictory to my true feelings and my emphatic statement that I stand with my union. Of course, I don't like striking. Nobody does. But we have to do what we have to do. In terms of referring to the strike as a reductive negotiating tactic he found frustrating, Amell wrote that, I emote, but I certainly don't think these issues are simple. Our leadership has an incredibly complicated job, and I am grateful for all that they do. From an intellectual perspective, I understand why we are striking, but that doesn't mean it isn't emotionally frustrating on many levels for all involved. Now, that is a fair statement to say, I would say, right? It's pretty fair, yeah. Like, I just said that, like, a minute ago. I was like, I can understand it could be frustrating. But say that. Like, use your words. Actually say that. Like, the words of reductive negotiating tactic, that just means that, oh yeah, this negotiating style, it's dumb. It's not going to work. It's not going to get us anywhere. That's what those word choices mean. But if all you really meant to say was that it's just frustrating, then say that. If you meant that, you understand why we're doing this, but I just don't like that we're doing this, say that. That's all you had to say. So part of me is just like, this feels like he caught all the backlash and he was just like, all right, let me walk this back. Let me be like, all right, no, this is what I actually meant to say. Now, I'm not a mind reader. I'm not a telepath. I don't know if that's what he actually meant to say, but kind of feels to me like he was, just like, shit, let me come up with something. Let me come up with something that says that of what I actually meant, even though I didn't actually mean. I'm just saying, man, I feel like if you actually meant that stuff, then you would have said it the first time. Like, your words were very clear, saying that I stand with my union, but I don't support striking. Like that. I don't know, man. I feel like that was a very easy minefield to navigate, and you failed to do so. But there we go. There's no word on when the AMPTP will meet with SAG. One would assume and hope that if the WGA meeting goes well, then they'll bring SAG to the table, and we can all get this done with. Everyone can get the pay that they deserve, the rights that they deserve, and we can go back to making movies and TV and telling amazing stories. Mostly amazing stories, because let's be honest, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. The film and TV industry right now is kind of dog water. I ain't gonna lie. Like, it's every now and then comes something that's just like genuinely amazing. Great, like Oppenheimer, right? Amazing. Shit, I suppose I shouldn't say that because that's considered promoting. I mean, I'm not getting paid to say that, but I just pretend I didn't say that, all right? I mean, I'm not in SAG, but I don't want to get banned from it, but pretend I didn't say that. I'll cut that out. Probably not. But yeah, the industry right now, it's very much like people are just throwing things at the wall without much care as to the actual quality of the content, which I think is going to bring me it's going to be an amazing segue into the next story here, the next topic here, the state of the MCU. Yeah, let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about it, because after Secret Invasion, that Secret Invasion finale, whoo boy, man. Let's it is a very hot topic right now. That finale, it still lives rent free in my head just because of how bad it is. And look, I've been very positive about the MCU for the most part since Phase 4. I know a lot of people didn't like Phase 4, and as we're here in Phase 5, movie wise, I think the movies have been about the batting average of what we've come to expect of the MCU in terms of just looking at Phases 1 and 2. Phases 1 and 2, you have some really good movies, some great movies. You got some mediocre movies, and you got some bad movies. Okay. Phase 3 is really the only one where like you pretty much only had bangers. Like you really only had like great movies in it. Like I don't think I'm looking back at Phase 3. I can't really think of a bad movie. Like there are movies that I don't like. Spider-Man: Homecoming, Thor: Ragnarok, but I don't think they're bad movies. I think they might be like bad Spider-Man or bad Thor movies, but that's just me and my personal opinion. But as movies themselves, I don't think they're bad. Phase 4 had a bad movie in Thor: Love and Thunder. Love and Blunder, as I like to call it. But, you know, some people say, you know, like Multiverse of Madness was bad. Like I generally think phases 4 and 5 so far are about where the MCU used to be of phases 1 and 2, right? And I think people should temper their expectations of everything being like phase 3. That's just not going to happen. But the shows, on the other hand, are, even the ones I like, they are just not up to par. They all have problems, man. And the Secret Invasion finale really just hit me. It hit me with an epiphany, right? Where the thought is now in my head, looking towards the future, as we get close to Kang Dynasty, right? Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars, as we get close to, you know, the Fantastic Four coming in, the X-Men coming in, where I'm like, it might be time for the MCU to reboot. I think they should use Secret Wars to reboot the MCU. And not because I think, you know, it's all bad, because it's not. It's not. For the most part, I am very positive on the MCU whenever a new MCU movie comes out. TV shows, I'm like, I'm good on those. But the movies, I'm usually excited for them, right? But the fact that we got the Fantastic Four and X-Men coming in so late into the MCU, and, you know, like, they're not going to be able to interact with characters like Iron Man, like Captain America, you know, Steve Rogers, and then like some of these older characters, they're going to be on their way out, man. Like Thor is definitely going to be on his way out. He's probably going to bite it in either Kang Dynasty or Secret Wars, you know? Same for Hawkeye. Like, you know, Tom Holland's not going to want to do this forever. Like, he's waiting for Miles Morales to come along so he can get on out of there. So, like, as these important characters, the Fantastic Four and X-Men, come in, it's just like, well, a lot of the other characters that they should interact with and, you know, have stories with, they're going to be gone. They're going to be out of the way. And I think it would really behoove Marvel to, if they want to capture the cultural zeitgeist again, right? To be, you know, one of the hot trending topics in pop culture again, in terms of just like everyone knows Marvel, everyone's on the Marvel train, Marvel is amazing. I think it's time for a reboot. And I think if you look at Mortal Kombat 1, the game, right? The new game's coming out next month. It's a rebooted timeline where they're telling all new, fresh stories, all new, fresh takes on characters, and it is awesome. Like, this is the most excited I've been for a Mortal Kombat game in forever. And it's not even necessarily because of, like, the actual gameplay, the combat. Like, obviously, you know, I got certain characters I really want to play as, but, like, what has me excited is the story. The story of that game looks phenomenal. It looks like it's going to blow your mind because you have no idea where it's going to go. It's all new stuff. Like, it has people excited. That's what Marvel could be. If they use Secret Wars, which as an event would just make sense to use to reboot, you know, the timelines are crashing together and then they got to reset them and like make a new timeline that's fixed and not all broken and whatnot. Like, reboot it after that. Tell fresh new takes on characters where you don't have to exactly, you know, line up with comic expectations. Because, like, for a lot of these characters, these are the first time that we're seeing these characters in live action. So with that comes expectations. Okay, it's our first time seeing these characters. You know, from the fans, they're like, you have to adapt these characters this way because it's the first time we're seeing them. You should adapt them how we know them, how we understand them. Like, when you get to characters that have been adapted on screen a few times, you can actually take it in different directions and do some fresh new takes. Look at Batman. Like, no Batman that has come out in live action since Michael Keaton has been the same. Like, they've all been new, fresh takes on them. But with a lot of these characters coming into the MCU, it's the first time we're getting them, so people expect them to be a certain way. But if you reboot the universe and you're retelling stories with these characters and you have a blank canvas to play with, there's no expectations there. There's none. And speaking of expectations, people have expectations of the MCU being what it was back in like phase 3, like I said, right? But if you do a blank slate, clean reboot, there's no more expectations that the MCU that we know should follow from what it used to be. Because now, new sandbox, man. New playing field. You don't have to hold on to the past because we're all new now. All new MCU. That's what they should do, I think. You know, new fresh takes on characters that we've never seen before. Just let their imagination run wild with what they could do, what kind of stories they could create. And I think it would reinvigorate the passion in the fan base. And I think something like this would take, you'd have to take like 5 years off of the MCU. And I think that's fine. I think now we can actually use a break from the MCU. Like a good 5 years, you know. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Like, look at Star Wars. Sure, we've had a bunch of Disney Plus stuff, but movies, it's going on like 5 years since we've had a Star Wars movie, right? And now people are like, at Star Wars Celebration, when they announced the movies, people were just like, oh my God, finally, movies are back. Star Wars movies are back. You take about 5 years off of the MCU and reboot that thing and come back, boy, MCU is going to be king again. Because right now, I think not superhero fatigue. I don't think superhero fatigue is a thing. I think MCU fatigue is a thing because a lot of people, let's be real, the MCU right now, for the most part, like, they haven't put out anything that is an all-timer in a while, right? Like, Spider-Man No Way Home is probably that. Guardians Galaxy Volume 3 is probably that. But, like, consistently, they're putting out about, you know, good to mediocre to not so good movies. And I think in general, the audience, they're tired of movies they're tired of superhero movies not being GOAT status. Everyone wants that. Everyone wants great superhero movies. And I think that's a fair expectation to have. Like, if you can do it, if you have the capacity to put out a great superhero movie, you should strive to do that every time. But we're not getting that every time. So people are just kind of like, all right, someone, you know, call me when we have a great movie again, you know? That's why, like, when stuff like the Batman comes out, it's so refreshing. You know, even like Guardians Galaxy Volume 3, I think is a great movie. And when that came out, a lot of people were just like, okay, is the MCU back? It remains to be seen. It remains to be seen if it's back, if you even think it left to begin with. Me, I don't think it's left. I think it's just returned down back to its batting average. And for a lot of people, because of what you did in phase 3, they expect that every single time now. You gave them that taste of phase 3, now they want it all the time. And that might be a fair thing to want. Because if you can do that, then do it. But then again, that was the phase that was ramping up towards, you know, the end of like that Infinity Saga. So who knows? All I will say is this. It's time to reboot the MCU. I know it'd be weird seeing someone else playing Iron Man or Captain America, but man, with all these new characters we're getting with the Fantastic Four and the X-Men, like, I want to see Reed Richards interact with Tony Stark. We're not going to get that now because Tony's dead. You know, like, I want to see Wolverine and Captain America, you know, talk about, you know, the war days, you know, catch up, be like, oh, you know, we used to fight on the battlefield and all that good stuff. Like, I want to see that. I want to see Avengers versus X-Men with the actual, like, core Avengers still there. Because they're not going to be. Like, they're not. Nat's gone. Tony's gone. Steve's gone. Thor and Hawkeye, they're going to be gone. Hulk is probably going to be gone because his son is here now. So, like, yeah, man, reboot the MCU. I think that would probably be in the best interest after Secret Wars. But will they do that? They're not. They're definitely not, even though they should. I feel like after Secret Wars, Kevin Feige is going to be out anyway. I feel like because he seems to be spread so thin right now, and like the Secret Invasion director said that like when they brought the idea of giving Gaia all those powers, Feige was just like, yeah, man, look, hey, free reign, do what you want, basically. I think he's like that because he's been doing this for so long. I think he's just waiting for Secret Wars so he can get all his old school casting, Marvel characters, get Toby, get Hugh, get Wesley Snipes, maybe, like get all these actors, all these characters that because he worked on a lot of that stuff back in the day. I think he wants to get all these characters, all these cameos in there, have them interact, and then he's like, all right, I'm at peace. I've done what I've wanted to do all these years. I'm gone. Maybe to Star Wars. Who knows? But yeah. Reboot the MCU, please. Now, before I get out of here, because this is going to be a shorter episode, because I am graduating today from college, finally. Thank God. It's been too long. I'm going to talk about the Fantastic Four casting rumors. And I'm only going to talk about it for a brief time, because the Fantastic Four casting rumors for like the last year and a half, maybe, I don't know. It's just been exhausting. It's been exhausting. So many names. Like, if you want to start all the way at the beginning, it was just like John Krasinski's coming back as Reed, but now he's not. Now it's going to be Penn Badgley, but now it's not. Now it could be, like Tom Ellis. It could be it could be even Henry Cavill, or it could be who else was in running? It was just like so many names. And then, Adam Driver at some point became like he was going to be a lock, like, oh yeah, it's definitely going to be Adam Driver. But then, like a week ago, it came out, Driver is not a lock because he read the script. He couldn't connect to the character of Reed Richards, so he backed out. But even before that, it was just like Driver backed out because he wanted too much money. And then, like, when it comes to the other casting, roles, it was like, okay, Sue Storm, it's going to be, who was like one of the first ones? It wasn't Emily Blunt. She was never like actually something that someone said, she was never like actually a factor. It was like someone else. It was like, I don't know. It's like Kristen Bell was one at some point. And it was so many. But then like suddenly Margot Robbie, he was like, oh yeah, it's going to be, oh no, it was Jodie Comer. Jodie Comer was like the one. It was just like, yeah, it's going to be Jodie Comer. Then it's not Jodie Comer. Then it's going to be Margot Robbie. Oh shoot. It's going to be Margot Robbie. It's not Margot Robbie. Now, yesterday, a report from Jeff Snyder saying that it is definitely going to be Vanessa Kirby. In fact, they are building the cast around her. And then Joseph Quinn from Stranger Things, he's going to be, Johnny Storm. Look, man, this saga, I can't keep doing this. Like, I've been burned too many times at this point. Like, it's too many names. It sounds like everyone is just playing a guessing game right now, throwing names at the wall in terms of, who's gonna be what. Like, it's too much. It's too much. I feel like people are just so starved for finally having a Fantastic Four cast in the MCU that people are just throwing stuff at the wall to get clicks. That's what I think. So this new report, this new rumor about Vanessa Kirby and Joseph Quinn, I don't put much stock into it. I'm sorry, I don't. I'm not buying anything until it comes from one of the big trades, from like a Deadline or a Variety or a Hollywood Reporter, one of those types. I'm not buying anything. I'm just not. And like, even like right now, these can't actually be like done deals because the strike's going on and you can't negotiate contracts and stuff during a strike. So like, nah, man, Fantastic. I just don't want to hear about it anymore. That's the thing. I don't want to hear about it anymore. Like, when I saw that, like, my friend texted in like group chat, just like, oh my God, we finally have it. I'm just like, no, we don't, dude. No, stop. You're getting excited over nothing. Until it comes from one of the big trades or Disney themselves, I'm not buying any Fantastic Four casting at all. That's all I have to say about that, okay? Thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Great Talkability with your boy, Darius the Great. make sure to like, comment, subscribe, rate this bad boy, because we're going to keep doing this, man. We're going to keep doing this. I may bump up the episodes to like maybe a few times per week. I don't know. Stay tuned. But I'm enjoying just sitting here talking with you guys. So once again, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time.